Hello and welcome to Heartrepreneur TV. I am your co-host Velma Gallant, and we have a wonderful guest today, John Sadeh. And today we are talking about, what are we talking about, John?
Oh, we're talking about communication skills, how to build some trust, relationships, better clients, referrals, and ultimately, not have to work so hard.
Beautiful. Okay, so quick little introduction here. John is the founder and chief strategist of New Path Business Advisors, an international growth advisory firm that helps establish business owners of professional service companies generate significant, rapid, and long-term growth and profitability in their business while making and having a great life in the process. And you may hear my dog crying. I want to apologize out front. This is the benefits of working from home, is your animals turn into, well, let me show you. They turn into wieners because that's what happens when you stay home with your pup. Anyways,
Well,
maybe he'll stop crying now that he's on my lap.
well, between your dog and I live downtown Chicago, so you might hear a fire engine, a siren, or hopefully not any gunshots. Those seem to have calmed down a little bit, so I think we're good.
Okay. So just to continue the introduction, I'm sorry for interrupting it, but so John has worked with thousands of companies in many industries over the past 25 plus years. He's won multiple awards in his corporate and entrepreneurial life, and he has been a partner and owner of multiple multi-million dollar businesses and is a transformational expert in helping business owners successfully integrate their business and their life in a healthy and profitable way. So we are going to rock and roll this, putting my dog down, and talk today about how communication, effective communication with the right people, actually helps us to bring more time and money into our businesses. So I'm paraphrasing what I had for the show title, but I'm sure we're really close to it.
Absolutely.
So tell me, John, what is it? And why is it that you say that communication is really the key to bringing more time and more money into our lives and businesses?
Well, the reality is, this is not a new topic. Communication is in every area of our lives, from relational to business to sports to whatnot, you name it. It's an area that we all continually try to improve upon. If you don't believe that, and if you have a significant other, just ask them. Okay. And
Yeah, exactly.
but when it comes to business, I look at whenever you're learning something new, Velma, you know how you have to be intentional. You're thinking about it all the time. I have to think about the next step is, or frequently when somebody's in a they're in a, even just any general conversation, doesn't even have to be a business setting. We tend to ask questions. We kind of listen to what they're saying, but we're already thinking about what we want to say next. We're not really listening. Now, if you extrapolate that out, think of how many opportunities we miss a really powerful point, a game-changing point in business, that one key hot button or whatnot that might actually make the difference in that person either working with you or not, or you hearing what they really need and giving you what I call the opportunity to connect them with someone else that can actually solve it. And when you do this, and what you're actually doing, you're actually building trust, you're building a relationship, and you're separating yourself from almost everyone else out there, because most people forget about the ratio of these here and this here.
Yep.
So when I say you want to save time, ask more questions, listen, and what you will do is you will be able to identify really your friend, your client, whatever. They will tell you what the next steps are, versus you trying to guess, or even worse yet, assume.
Right. So ask more questions to save time. I really like that. And what I also heard, because you spoke a little bit about trust, I heard the word trust, and I think that asking more questions is actually part of creating more trust as well. Would that be right?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. It's an overused cliche, probably because it's so true. People do business with who they like and they trust. And I look at my marriage. My wife and I have been traveling recently, and we just got back. We're gone for just shy of 2 weeks, and possibly looking at areas to move to. And part of the people that were trying to help us, like, what are the things that you're looking for?
Mhm.
The reality was, as we started answering this question recently, we weren't 100% sure. We had a general idea. And then through communicating with other people, them asking us a few more questions, we actually started to clarify and get to the point of, you know what, actually, this is really important to us. Because sometimes we don't even know where they fall on the priority scale. We just kind of verbally puke out all these particular factors that we're looking for. And when you do that in business, sometimes the best consultants, the best advisors, the best salespeople are the ones that sit there and they ask a few more questions to help me, the client, better clarify what it is I need. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, actually, and, I know I have, an acquaintance that, she's a copywriter,
Mhm.
and we were talking about her work in the organization that she was in, and, um, part of who she is and what she does in her work is ask those clarifying questions. And we actually determined that what works best for her is when the people that she's working for, whether it be inside of the organization or the clients that they're supporting, when they, and we coined the term verbal vomit, when they verbal vomit on her and give her all of the information, she's able to take that and clarify it down and distill it down into exactly what's needed. So what I'm hearing is it's that clarifying, taking the time to ask those extra questions in order to get exactly what you need in order to support your client better.
Yeah, not only that, we also have to kind of unpack that a little bit to find out, why do we sometimes talk too much? Why do we sometimes take so much time to think about what we're going to say? Sometimes because we're not well prepared. We haven't
Mhm.
done any research on the event that we're going to, about the host that we're going to, about the company that we're going to be meeting with. We're really kind of going in blind. And so you want to save some time. You want to basically do better pre-qualification, learn a little bit about the group, the person, the organization that you're going to speak with. And then the more you have, you're better prepared to actually ask questions. I am absolutely shocked. I think of all the people I hired over the years and I've interviewed, I've gone through. It's like they came in, it was like they were in our lobby, they scheduled the interview and they walked in, they knew nothing about our company. I'm thinking, why are you here? You don't care enough to know enough about me or our company. You're just looking for a job. So why then should I spend my time and effort if you don't care enough to do a little pre-work? Why should I care enough to work with you? Does that make sense?
Well, and that makes a lot of sense. So it's I heard clarifying research as well as clarifying questions,
Oh,
and again, it does make a lot of sense because it's just the job interviews over my lifetime that I didn't bother to look at the company were the ones I never got.
yeah.
And I think the same thing applies with your clients. If you're not going to take the time to get to know them just a little bit better, they're not going to be the clients you're going to keep.
Yeah, and the reason I bring up the whole interview process, because we're in a situation right now where I have heard so many people talk about the challenge. Again, I've spoken with hundreds of business owners over the last couple of years, and doing whatever we could, because we have the ability. There's a people that need help. We've had the ability to help them, and we really went into
Mhm.
these conversations, which is going to be two-part point here. One, we went into these conversations to see genuinely how can we help, not how can I find the way that they're going to work with me? What's the hook that I'm looking for? We all hate high ticket closing type. No one wants to be sold. Nobody wants to get got, I like to say,
Mhm.
you know? And so, but if you go in there truly with this, how can I help you? And genuinely mean it. I'm going to touch on a couple of body language things that people can pick up on sometimes. Um,
Mhm.
when you go into that and you can see how you can help them, one of the biggest things, the topics that I kept hearing about is hiring, retention, people jumping jobs. You're getting crazy amounts of pay raises, not necessarily based upon skill. It's based upon kind of supply and demand, like the real estate's going on here in the United States. It's going bonkers. It's completely unsustainable. I was just in Florida and we look at homes that have doubled in 3 years. Well, that's not sustainable. Yet you talk to some people, oh, it's never going to go down. I'm thinking, really? How old are you and how long have you been around real estate? So the point of that is that when you go into it and you're trying to ask questions to help, there are people right now that are jumping ship from companies. You ever heard the phrase, people leave managers, they don't leave companies?
Mhm.
And sometimes when we have to ask, we're talking about a lot of times making new connections or finding new clients. This is doubly, if not even triply, that's not even a word, even triple the times. I don't know, you can tell I'm still catching up in my sleep. It's even more important when you're talking about your own team, because
Mhm.
these are people that if they don't feel valued, if they feel the bottom line is more important than them or their family, if their bottom line, the next account is greater than, whether or not you've got some health challenges, family challenges, you're not willing to listen to that. Or it's not even the dramatic things. It could be, hey, how are things going? Getting honest feedback. When
Yeah.
you do that and you actually spend the time with your team, get to know what's actually important to them. Going back to the interview process, one of the things I used to ask, I used to listen to how people talked about the people they worked with. Because I'd ask them questions, say, tell me about one of the best bosses you've ever had. Tell me about, how did you, it sounds like you've had a lot of success here. What do you attribute that success to? If everything was about them, and nobody else, that was
Mhm.
a warning sign. Okay. Again, so what you're hearing is a lot of questions and listening. The message is not necessarily the words they're saying. It's what's in between it. And I think sometimes when you're not listening, whether it be in a sales situation, a current customer, you could have a conflict of, resolution you have to deal with the client, which we all do at times. If you're not listening to really what the real problem is, I like to call it, what's the real issue? It's not usually the first one. It's not the first objection. It's the second or third. And sometimes they have to know that you're really listening before they'll be willing to share that. And when you get to that point, it gets back to the like and trust piece. When you can
Right.
get deeper, you can get below that a little bit. And all that takes is shut up and listen sometimes. I'm sorry. I mean, I was told never to use that phrase growing up, but it's powerful. Sometimes you just need to shut up and listen. And if you're not sure, there are certain things that you can do. I would say probably the reason people don't do it, first off, is because they're nervous.
Mhm.
They are coming into a situation where they're not confident. They have some insecurities. Natural. Again, go back to being prepared. It reduces that likelihood that you're going to be more nervous going into that, and you're going to be talking too much. Okay.
Mhm.
The second thing, okay, if you're prepared and you're listening, okay, you're not confident because you're worried about what they're thinking about you. That's the oxymoron. Really, you're supposed to be focusing on them. It's really not about you. It's about them. You hear phrases like "with it," what's in it for them, and you hear all these wonderful cliches and acronyms that are out there. There's a gazillion of them. I think you really need to ask yourself, though, if you are going into these situations, how good are you at listening? If you're not sure, if you think you're really good, if you have a significant other or your family around, ask them. They typically don't hold back. I have found at least my family, there was a phrase we used to joke about, don't ask their opinion because you're probably going to get it, and a lot more than you expected. So,
And that's really true. So I heard quite a few things
sure.
as you were sharing there, and uh, one of the things is part of the interview process with a client, for example, is how can we help? And then you were also talking about uh, how in this day and time we have a lot of people who are moving from company to company, and so how it's really important to maintain a quality culture inside of your organization so that you do keep those quality people. and
Yeah.
and I kind of heard what I thought I heard is that as a CEO of our organizations, we're actually creating two kinds of culture, and they're very similar because we're not only creating the culture inside of our organization, but we're creating a culture outside of our organization in the
Yep.
way that we are listening to our potential clients, in the way that we are interviewing them from a perspective of how can I help you, in a more um, more
Authentic. Yeah.
prescriptory type of way, in that we're
We're good.
listening
We can
for.
make any words we can make up words today. That's
Well,
good.
I mean, Tripoli is a city, isn't it?
That is Tripoli. Trinidad, Tripoli, I think is a country too, or a city. I'm not sure.
So might be.
Right.
But
Right.
I'm hearing that it's the
Yeah.
quality of the interview we do and the quality of a culture that we build both inside and outside of our organization is what is going to create those opportunities for better time management and better income. Because what I'm hearing is
Yeah.
better time management is the culture inside of your organization. More money is the culture outside of your organization.
It can be both, actually, in my opinion. Good
Okay.
analogy of bringing these two out. Let me speak into that, and I'll give an example of a story. Back when I was in corporations, I was able to take over a region. It was a on the surface, it looked like everything was going great. This is the late '90s, early 2000, and I stepped in. This is when we had a mini recession here in the United States, and I was in the fleet management and leasing business. Great company, and I stepped in though. But some of the prior credit decisions, because we leased the vehicles to companies, we managed their fleets. We had to really understand their business, because you're in lending. It's not just the numbers. Numbers tell a story, and you got to know what to see. A lot of people don't know the numbers, and part of one of the advantages when I work with people, I know how to read a P&L, and I've also been responsible for them. That makes
Mm-hmm.
separates a lot of people right there. But they all tell a story, and you have to listen. Because when I took it over, I think we had 18 to 21 companies went bankrupt within the first 4 months. And even as inexperienced as I was, even I couldn't have caused that fast, right? So I had to dig around, and it was a fascinating time, right? So many of these people, I had to sit down and listen to them, payment plans. We had to people that were losing their business because maybe, like, one of the challenges businesses run into, they have too much with one company or one entity. And so really they like to think, I own my business, but really your vendor owns your business. You just kind of have a couple of side projects, but you work for them. And I had some of these people I was talking to, and they're sitting there crying, and and I'm sitting here. How do you be empathetic and sympathetic, yet at the same time you owe me $147,000? How do I figure all this out? In
Mm-hmm.
that time frame, there's a level of humility, and it's always a balance. I think when it comes to your internal culture. Well, let me finish on this story. So we had to make a lot of changes. We had to make a lot of credit related changes, customer changes. We had to let customers go. We had to change terms. I looked at the sales force. Some of the salespeople they were hitting all the metrics, but yet the quality of their business was garbage. So we had the back office, sales support, all these different things. I had to go in there, but for the first probably 90 days, I did a lot of listening and looking and listening and looking. And I realized what I thought was the case ended up being not really the big issues. Now, I made some good decisions. I made some dumb decisions, like many of us do, but you fail forward. And when we turn it around, and I that early stages, I probably went too strong. I just forced it. It's kind of like my way or the highway. This is what we're doing. We were in damage control mode, many of which companies had to go through in the last couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why I share the story. At that point, okay, we stabilized, we're back growing again, but there was tension in that office. I had let people go and made a lot of changes in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I'm not saying I always handle it well. And someone gave me advice, said, you need to let the air out of the tires here and let your team vent, because they're talking about you anyway. You might want to get them all in the same room and let them talk in front of you. And so I did that after one of our Monday sales meetings. I got the entire team there, explained, hey, we've gone through a lot. I know we made a lot of big decisions. Sometimes, things went great. And I know there's some things that probably rub some people the wrong way. I gave them an opportunity in that meeting to go around one by one by one and tell me what they thought was working well, what I did well, what I'm screwing up on.
Mm-hmm.
Sat there for an hour and a half and listened to everyone and didn't say a word other than, thank you very much. Is there anything else? Great. And by the way, whenever you're in a meeting, this is a big tip, people. If you're in a networking session, if you're in a online, offline, but if you're face to face with somebody, take notes. Active listening shows that you care. Folks, it is so easy to stand out today. I've been saying that more and more. If you ask questions, listen, and generally care and follow up on stuff, do you realize
Mm-hmm.
that will put you in the top 5 or 10% of most businesses right now? It really will. So when you're listening to your team, you have to give them the opportunity. They have to know through your actions match up to your words that you're willing to take feedback. And by taking notes and writing down sometimes exactly what they say, you can reference it later in a conversation. You can say, hey, when you said this, I really think that you're right. Phrases like, I'm sorry. Phrases like, This sounds like this is really important to you. This has really struck a chord. Tell me more about this. This sounds important to you. Sounds like I may have missed something on this. Can you clarify that for me? I want to make sure I get this right. Be patient. Many times when you allow them to talk, they will talk themselves into, address the issue, clarify the issue, and actually solve the issue all in their own same conversation sometimes. That's true with a prospect. Sometimes say, we need more leads. We need this, that, and the other. Like I hear that sometimes, like, we need more leads. We have to get, I said, no, actually, I look at, they're getting tons of leads, but I look at their messaging. It's all over the board.
Mhm.
They're not getting good prospects. Qualified prospects is what they want. See what I mean? So it's learning behind the scenes. And when you do this process, it's so important that you write the notes, you come back, and then you follow up on it. You want to save time? Listen for a few minutes, save hours. Listen for a few minutes, save tens of thousands in wasted money in marketing and advertising campaigns that go nowhere. You want to save time, listen to your people, make them feel empowered. They will break through walls, and many times they do it better than you could anyway. They're better than you in most cases. If you're the smartest person in the room and you're doing all the work, well, that probably means either A, you've got an ego issue, you got to get that in check, or you may not be hiring the best quality people, or you don't listen, or D, all of the above. Okay, it could be all of the above. So when you want to save time, the whole idea is to try to do less or try to do more with less, while at the same time acknowledging where your team is at. I know I'm focusing a lot on team because this is coming up a lot lately, and people are jumping ship and they're hiring and they're paying way above market, what they say is market. You know what they're starting to find out, Velma? These people don't know what they're doing. They're paying them 30, 40% more than they paid the last person. And because they jumped, they're realizing they're not even getting the job done. And now they feel like they're stuck with them because they have this huge overhead now.
Yeah.
And just asking the other questions, because people will always do more if they feel valued and respected and listened to than they will for money. Money's important. I'm not taking that away. Go ahead.
Well, and so that really does point to, again, the culture outside of our organization, and how we're presenting that and how we're engaging with our people. Because you gave the example of somebody paying somebody more and jumping ship over there and then regretting it. When somebody's not going to jump ship on you if they feel heard, listened, and supported. So inside or outside of your organization, it is less likely to happen.
Less likely, exactly.
So it's of value to make sure that you are taking the feedback in if something didn't go quite right, clarifying, asking those clarifying questions, making sure that you're doing the quality research. And I think too, on an internal perspective, that really points to making sure that you've got the right team. And I know you brought that up because I think you just recently said, if you're the smartest person in the room, and I think that's kind of loaded, because I got to tell you, I'm going to feel like the smartest person in the room if I've got the smartest team in the room.
Absolutely.
Because I'm going to know that I'm the one that picked them all.
Absolutely.
So I'm still going to feel pretty darn smart about that. But yeah, I'm really hearing that, and I like that Regina and Ken have both brought this up. It is that quality communication is what differentiates us as a leader when it comes to leading our business out in the world and leading our business inside of the culture.
Yep. You know, there are certain little tips, I think, that when I was thinking about what we might talk about, there's so many things that come to mind, from general communication techniques, both online and offline. Some people, and when I started, Chicago just kind of opened back up again recently. And so I was finally be able to go back into some live meetings. I'll be honest with you, as much as I love that, and I can communicate well with people, it was a little awkward at first. I had gotten out of practice being face to face with people. And, it's just a skill, just like anything else. Listening is a skill. It has
Mhm.
to be constantly developed, and you have to study it. And I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in behavioral development, leadership development, all these other things that I've learned over the years, only to realize I need to still probably invest another $1 million and get better at it still. And so when you're talking about the team, all right, I know I'm focusing there because, again, I keep hearing this over and over again right now.
Mhm.
I'll give you an example. We had a mortgage company, and we were really successful with it. And when we went to sell it, we had 31, 32 employees. We were funding about $500 million a year in loans. About a third of those were actual loan officers, actually generating the loans. We sold to a company that was doing 900 million with 375 employees. So we had 1/10 the staff were doing over one half their volume. And part of
Mhm.
that is not because we were perfect. There were certain things that we learned how to position ourselves differently in the market. We learned how to ask, we taught people, and this is an online lending company. So, a lot of people go to Bankrate and go to some of these lending trees. We would get those leads and people would pick up the phones. There's a skill in that. You have to learn how to communicate and sell on a phone is different than face to face.
Mhm.
But you have to be a consultative type person. You have to be generally interested. And if you're not that kind of person, there are some people that just could really give a rip. Well, fine. Then get people around you that do, because they have to be your buffer. Some of you are owners, and you want to be, but you're an operator. You have the
Mhm.
title of owner, but you're really an operator. And the reason you're an operator, maybe if you're frustrated, is you don't have enough free time. You're getting arguments at home that you're not making the recitals, the games, hey, we're not doing. Why are we doing this? And there's tension at home, because it is, being a business owner, a small medium business owner, is hard.
Mhm.
I don't. I mean, if you are one, congratulations. It is difficult, yet at the same time, you can't imagine going back to work for somebody. Yet I'm sure you've thought about it at some point. Um, and so the reason you're not a CEO and you're an operator, part of that issue could be you're not asking enough questions. You're not getting enough feedback to see how your company can grow, how you're not listening to your clients. You're not listening to your customers. You are so convinced that what you have is the greatest widget in the world, and you can't understand why more people won't buy it, why more people don't buy into your vision. Well, it could be a communication breakdown. There could be something you are missing, and you have to humble yourself. The higher you go in anything, it's less and less product focused, it's more people focused. You have to humble yourself to listen. And as Terry always talks about, it doesn't matter what you're passionate about, it's what they want to buy. So, she talked about going out to the market with a one question. What's the one result and only one result I can help you get this year in your business? What is it? Those kind of things. I love her 5 questions. I have them literally taped here on my desk. When you're talking with somebody, these 5 questions, totally shout out to Terry Levine here. What is working in your business right now? What makes it work? What's your ideal vision? What's not quite right yet? And what tools or resources do you need? Do you know, if you could answer that for every one of your customers, do you realize your business, and I don't think I'm overstating this, probably could double? Because there's parts then, if you knew how to answer that for all of your clients, you would be doing some things differently. You would be offering some different products. You would not be offering some of the products or services you do now, because you're realizing your current client base, which we all want our referrals. Yet if you're not servicing their most important need, it's going to be harder. And then you wonder why we're so wide and why we work with all these different companies. You see how this all ties together?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yes.
so the one other thing I want to make sure we have time on. I don't know how much time we have left here, but it's really important that you have some people, quite frankly, need some basic communication training. I have a
Mhm.
friend of mine that works for one of the large Big Four consulting firms here in Chicago. As a manager, he recently had to go through a training, which was how to teach basic communication skills like shaking hands, eye contact, following up, asking questions. I mean, stuff is rudimentary. We learn typically in kindergarten. Yet these are 6-figure master's degree people that are being taught this by one of the largest consulting firms in the world. It blew my mind. Yet when I thought about it, I think of how many people right now are looking down at their phones all the time. They have a
Mhm.
problem putting their phone away.
Yeah.
eye contact, if you want to shake somebody's hand, there's little things. You're at a networking event. Do you know the tip of you put your name tag on the hand that you outreach to shake your hand with? Because then your shoulder goes forward. And ideally, I hate lanyards because people have to look down. I love
Mhm.
tags so they can go right at eye contact and they can see your name. And then when you introduce yourself, shake their hand firmly. Don't break it, but shake their hand firmly. Look them right in the eyes. Now, here's the tip of looking somebody right in the eyes. Look at the bridge of their nose. The bridge of their nose makes you think you're looking right in their eyes, but you're actually focusing it because you can't really focus on their eyes. It's weird. So you actually focus on the bridge of their nose, and it makes it look like you're looking right at them. And so I say, hey, Velma, nice to meet you, Velma. Velma, what brings you here today? You realize I just said your name 3 times because I'm trying to remember your name?
Mhm.
Because
It makes a lot of, well, I mean, and I keep a notepad with me when I'm talking to people.
sure.
And the first thing that I do is I write their name there,
Mhm.
because I know that's something um, that I practice, because it's not something that sticks always. I had a new friend, and I don't remember her name. And she told me what she does is she actually pictures somewhere on your face the first letter of your name. So we
Interesting.
had so she was trying to figure out where the V was on my face, right? And I thought that was a really interesting one. And then I have other people that think of some kind of a little ditty with your
Mhm.
name in order to support themselves, so that when they see you, the tune comes up and they get the rest of that. But so, I'm hearing a lot of small things make a big
Huge,
difference,
huge.
right?
Um, Writing a note to follow up with somebody after you met them, a handwritten note. Okay, here's my dog. It's called a siren. It's going by now. So, you know, handwritten note. I have one right here. I just got this from somebody that I met with. I got this. I just got in town. It probably was sent while I was gone out of town. I can't tell you the last time I've received a handwritten note.
Mm.
And you know how the person got it? We only met virtually. She says, "Hey, what's the address if I wanted to send you something?" She asked me that on the call. Brilliant. I mean, why not? How? Because right now, so many people working from home, they may not work out of an office anymore.
Yeah.
So you want to try to make this. You have to take one step further and think about it. I could go on, and I've taught classes to Fortune 100 companies on phone etiquette, things that we do, how to, basic communication, things like doing the follow up notes, what to say, what not to say sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, and the time is so much. We realize, I'll go back to the mortgage business. One of the reasons we were so successful is because we asked far more questions in the beginning before we ever got to quoting a rate to someone, that we had
Hmm.
to find out, is it right for them to buy a home right now or not? It doesn't matter if they qualify. Are they actually really ready to own a home? And that started to separate us. And we used to advertise that just because you can buy a home doesn't mean you should.
Hmm.
Right now, there's some people that really should stay renting. Anyway, I'll go back. So then when we got into that, by the time we got to the rate, we asked, and we would hear this all the time. I haven't been asked these questions by almost anybody. We understand that because they're just trying to sell you a mortgage. We're trying to make sure that this is a good financial decision for you and your family. Very big distinguishing difference. And that is why we
Yeah.
closed, and we had, by the time we sold, 63% of our business was a referral, even in the crazy space that we were in. And our marketing cost per closed loan was about 1/4 of the industry average. And they couldn't believe it when they showed on the numbers. You know why it was? Because we asked questions, we followed up, we checked in on them. I don't know if you're a business owner. Have you and your team members called all of your clients that you've worked with in the last couple of years just to check in? How you doing?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So we are actually at the end of
Whoa.
our time. So some of the things that I really heard from you that I think make a big difference is, one, ask more questions, clarify what they really need to make sure that you can help them. Come from that perspective of how can we help? And those clarifying questions that Terry teaches are really an excellent way of being able to
Right.
do that. Research. So researching both your customers, and even at that point, researching the people that you might be looking at to hire to
Mhm.
support you, whether it be by contract or actually as an employee. I heard feedback, which is something that we can receive both from our clients, potential clients, and our team. I also heard follow up, making sure that we're following up on, it could be the feedback, could be the research, could be the clarifying questions, all of those kinds of things, being able to follow up with our people and having them actually know that who they are matters, and that you're here to make a difference. You're not, it's less about what you receive and more about what you're able to give.
Absolutely. And when you do those steps, clients will raise their hand to work with you versus you trying to drag them across the finish line. They're lined up waiting for you because they know
Brilliant.
that you care and you've asked the questions. They've told you what it needs, what they need. And if you can fill it, and it's a logical next step, which is here's the close. Sounds like we covered this, this, and this. You could really help this. Would you like to take the next step? Would you like to know how we can implement that today? There's your
Exactly.
there's your close, right?
And that's what Terry teaches with her reverse marketing, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's
Agree.
basically having them walk up to you. So this was brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, John.
You bet.
I'm looking forward to people, as you're listening to this, put your questions in the comments. And John will come back in and answer some of your questions. For those of you who watch this on YouTube, come on over to Heartrepreneurs with Terry Levine at Facebook and join the community. You're going to be able to connect with more heart-based business owners like John, like myself, like Terry, and you would have seen a few names on the screen as we went through this time together. Come join us, and you can ask your questions inside of the group, and we would be happy to support you. Thanks so much for coming today, John. I enjoyed our conversation.
Likewise.
And I'm looking forward to the conversations to come. And thank you to our people who are listening inside of the Facebook group. We love and appreciate you, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.